Picture this, okay? It's 1957, small town America. Life's pretty simple, Black and white TVs are the new thing. Everyone's worried about the Yankees and the World Series.
Yeah, I can see it.
Then, bam, news hits. The Soviets, they launched something called Sputnik.
A little metal sphere, right?
Exactly, and it's like orbiting the Earth. Suddenly, the world feels way bigger and scarier, too, that beep, 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 beep from Sputnik. That wasn't just some signal. It was like the starting gun for this crazy race to space.
The space race.
Welcome to Cosmos in a Pod, by the way, our space and astronomy series. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, folks. Today, we're diving deep into this wild time, this space race, Cold War tension. It basically launched humanity toward the stars.
It's hard to explain how big a deal Sputnik was for the U.S. It wasn't just about falling behind in tech. It was like their whole way of life felt threatened. Imagine that fear, right? Enemy satellite up there, always watching. The Soviets, they were showing they could do things the U.S. couldn't.
It was a real wake-up call. I mean, I was reading how the U.S. basically flipped out, funding science education like crazy.
NASA was born, right?
Yep, fast forward button, full speed ahead on their own space program.
And it wasn't just about rockets and stuff. Culture shifted. Big time. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be a scientist or engineer. Kids dreamed of being astronauts, not just like baseball stars.
True. And pretty soon in the U.S., they set their sights on the biggest prize out there. The moon. President Kennedy, that speech.
Yeah.
We choose to go to the moon. Bold, ambitious. I mean, it was almost hard to believe back then.
What gets me is Kennedy didn't just say, we gotta beat the Soviets. He made it about all of humanity. Like this challenge we could all tackle together. Pure genius. He got the whole world watching.
He wasn't messing around either. The Apollo program. Huge. So many people involved, and they pushed the limits of tech in ways you wouldn't believe.
It still blows my mind how much tech we use today came from Apollo. The chips in our phones, the materials we use, that drive to reach the moon changed everything.
Right. Mind-blowing is the word. But we got to give credit where it's due. While the U.S. was aiming for the moon, the Soviets, they were hitting milestones too. First animal in orbit, Laika the dog. And then, Yuri Gagarin, the first human to orbit Earth.
Big, big achievements, those firsts. The Soviets were amazing at snagging them in those early days. It was a different approach, right? They wanted the big splash, the big headlines. The U.S., they were playing the long game, more about exploration and scientific discovery.
And those approaches, it's interesting to see how they played out. The Soviets, they nailed their Venus program. Landing probes on Venus, that place is insane, so hostile. The heat, the pressure. Can you even imagine designing something that could survive there?
Their engineers were incredible. Those Venera probes, tough as nails, sending back the first pictures ever from another planet's surface. They showed us like a totally alien landscape. Volcanoes, no life, just thick clouds everywhere.
It makes you wonder what LSE is out there, right? But while the Soviets tackled Venus, NASA had their eyes on Mars. Mariner missions, they gave us our first close-ups of the red planet. All that red dirt, huge plains, and hints that maybe once there was water flowing there.
Those early missions, they got everyone hooked on Mars.
Yeah.
And then came Viking, right? They were trying to find life.
The Viking landers, those were pioneers, exploring a brand new world, sending back data about Mars. And then Voyager, right? 2 probes launched in '77, off to explore the outer planets. Except they didn't stop there.
Those Voyagers are something else. They just kept going, right out of our solar system. They even carry a message from Earth, that golden record. Sounds, pictures, like a little time capsule from humanity. Little, hey, we're here, to whoever might find it out there.
It's a beautiful thought, a message in a bottle drifting through space. But beyond the science, the space race, it changed things here on Earth too.
No doubt. All that tech we needed for space, to communicate, to build new stuff, it's everywhere now. Hard to imagine our lives without it.
So we went from Sputnik's beep to probes exploring way beyond our solar system, all in just a few decades. We learned a ton about the universe and ourselves. But the story doesn't end there, does it?
Nope. The space race might be over, but people still want to explore. In fact, I think we're entering a whole new era, even more exciting than what came before.
Ooh, okay, now things are getting really interesting. What's changing?
It's not just governments running the show anymore. Private companies, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, they're all in the game. They're bringing a whole new level of, I don't know, excitement, ambition to space.
Yeah, you're right. It's like that same energy that built so many industries here.
Yeah.
Now it's aimed at space.
Exactly. And it's more than just satellites, right? They're talking moon bases, space tourism, even, get this, colonizing Mars.
Wait, hold on. Colonizing Mars, that's like science fiction stuff.
Sounds crazy, but think about it. We've got rovers driving around up there right now. We're learning more about Mars every day, its resources, whether it could support life.
Yeah.
It's not that far-fetched.
But Mars is like super harsh, right?
Yeah.
The atmosphere is thin, it's freezing, there's radiation.
It's a challenge for sure, but not impossible. We're getting better with tech all the time. Imagine self-sustaining habitats, life support systems that work long-term, even ways to, like, terraform the planet.
Terraforming. You mean actually changing Mars to be more like Earth?
It's a long shot, but yeah, we could use microbes to convert the Martian atmosphere, warm it up, maybe even create oceans.
Whoa, that's wild. So we're not just talking visiting Mars, we're talking making it home.
That's the big dream, and it's pushing so much research right now. But even if we don't totally terraform it, having people live on Mars, that's huge.
Okay, but why bother? What's the point of a little outpost on a basically dead planet?
Science. Imagine scientists living there doing experiments we can't even dream of with rovers. We could learn about Mars's history, maybe find signs of ancient life, even clues about how our solar system formed.
And it would push our tech even further, right? Like Apollo, we'd have to invent totally new stuff to make a Mars colony work.
Absolutely. And those inventions, they'd help us back on Earth too. Like new energy sources, ways to use resources better, closed-loop systems for life support.
So it's not just running away from Earth, it's about learning, growing as a species, pushing the limits, and hopefully making life better for everyone.
That's a great way to put it. And don't forget the moon. There's a lot happening there too.
Right. The moon bases I've heard about. What's the latest on that?
The moon's like a practice run for deeper space. It's close, which makes things easier, and it's got resources we could use, like water ice hiding in those craters near the poles that are always in shadow.
Hold up. Water ice on the moon. That's amazing. What can we even do with that?
Drinking water, sure, but break it down. You get hydrogen and oxygen. Rocket fuel. Imagine a moon base as a gas station for trips to Mars, or even further.
That changes everything. Deep space travel becomes way more doable, way cheaper. And then there's space tourism, right?
Oh, yeah. People are already taking those quick trips to space. It's only a matter of time before we've got hotels on the moon, maybe even lunar settlements.
So Mars plans, moon plans, private companies doing crazy things. This new space age is going to be wild.
It is. And there's one more thing that really gets me going. The search for life out there.
Okay, now you're really talking. This is the stuff that keeps me up at night. Are we doing anything to find out if we're alone?
Well, we're finding more and more exoplanets, planets around other stars. And some of them, they're in the habitable zone, the sweet spot where liquid water could exist.
You're saying there could be planets out there, like Earth, with oceans, continents, maybe even life.
It's possible. And we're building telescopes that can study those planets' atmospheres to see if there are gases that could mean life exists.
So we could actually find proof of alien life in our lifetime.
Maybe. But even if we don't find little green men, the search itself is huge. We'll learn how life starts, what it needs to survive. It'll tell us about our own place in the universe.
It's incredible, but also kind of scary, you know?
Yeah, but exciting too. The universe is full of mysteries, and we're just starting to figure them out.
All this exploration, all this tech, it makes you think, doesn't it? About the big questions.
Totally. Going further into space, we're going to run into some tough ethical stuff.
Like what? Give me an example.
Who owns space? If we start mining asteroids or the moon, who gets the profits? How do we share those resources fairly?
Good point. And what about contaminating other planets? We don't want to mess up any life that might already be out there.
Exactly. We need rules, international agreements to make sure we explore space responsibly and sustainably.
Feels like we're not just entering a new frontier in space, but in how we understand ourselves, our place in the universe, and what we're responsible for.
You got it. This new era of space exploration, it's not just about rockets and tech. It's about expanding how we think, realizing we're part of something much bigger, and making sure our actions are good for everyone now and in the future.
Wow, a lot to think about. But also, so exciting. What does the future hold for space exploration?
The next few decades, I think we'll see humans really pushing beyond Earth's orbit. More robots on Mars and other planets for sure, but also people going back to the moon and maybe even staying there.
So sending people to Mars, IS, on the table.
It is, and it's not about planting a flag. It's about learning to live somewhere totally different. making a home out there.
Which is where those private companies come in.
You know it. SpaceX, Blue Origin, they're making space travel cheaper and easier with reusable rockets. And they're thinking outside the box on everything. Habitats, energy, food.
It really does feel like a new golden age of space exploration is starting.
I think so too. And it's not just about the science, right? It's about adventure. It's about pushing our limits and showing the next generation that anything is possible.
Okay, but for everyday folks, why should we care about any of this?
It pushes technology forward, for
Yeah.
one. Stuff we develop for space that often ends up helping us here on Earth. Medicine, communication, new materials, all kinds of stuff.
All right, I see that.
And it helps us understand our place in the universe. It makes you realize we're part of something enormous.
Exactly. And it makes you think bigger, question things, imagine what could be.
Well said. Space exploration isn't just reaching for the stars, it's reaching for our full potential as humans.
It's been a great conversation. We've covered a lot of ground here, from the history of the space race to what the future might hold. It really is amazing when you think about it. In such a short time, from Sputnik to like actual moon bases and going to Mars, it feels huge, like we're at the start of something brand new for humanity.
You know, right. And it's not just about how far we can go or the tech we invent. It's about asking the big questions, too. Who are we out here in this vast universe?
What do you mean?
For, forever, humans have looked at the stars and wondered if we're alone, right? And now we're getting closer to actually figuring that out.
The search for alien life, yeah.
Exactly. And it's not just some sci-fi fantasy anymore. We're finding new planets all the time, some of them. They could have the right stuff for life to exist.
But finding, like, bacteria on another planet, that's not the same as meeting intelligent aliens, right?
True, but it would still be mind-blowing. It'd mean life isn't just some Earth thing. It could be everywhere. The universe would suddenly be a lot more interesting.
I can't even imagine what that would do to us, to how we see ourselves.
It'd be a total game changer, and it'd open up so many new questions. How did life start there? Is it like Earth life? Are there super advanced civilizations out there we haven't met yet?
It's almost too much to think about.
It is, but it's exciting too. The universe is full of secrets, and we're finally starting to uncover them.
So what's next? Where does space exploration go from here?
I think the next few decades are all about getting off this planet for real. More robots on Mars, exploring other planets, but also humans going back to the moon, maybe even living there permanently.
You mean sending people to Mars is a real possibility?
Oh, yeah. And it's not just planting a flag, right? It's about learning to survive, thrive on another planet. It's about building a new home for humanity.
And that's where these private companies come in.
Exactly. SpaceX, Blue Origin, they're changing the game. Reusable rockets, making space travel cheaper. Plus, they're coming up with new ways to do everything. Building habitats, making energy, growing food in space. It's wild.
Sounds like we're entering a golden age of space travel. For real this time.
I think so, too. And it's not just about the tech, It's about the adventure, pushing our limits, showing the next generation that we can do anything.
Okay, but why should the average person care about this? It all seems so far away.
Well, space tech helps us here on Earth, for one, stuff we invent for space. It ends up in medicine, communication, even everyday materials.
That makes sense.
And honestly, it helps us understand our place in the universe. It reminds us that we're part of something way bigger than ourselves. It makes you think differently,
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So space exploration isn't just about reaching for the stars. It's about reaching for our potential as humans.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And as we keep exploring, who knows what we'll find? Maybe proof of ancient life on Mars, or a planet that could be our new home, or something so crazy, so unexpected that it changes how we understand everything about the universe.
The possibilities are endless. That's what makes space exploration so awesome, so inspiring. It's about going into the unknown, searching for knowledge, pushing ourselves further than we ever thought possible.
Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into space exploration, past, present, and future. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a blast.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to Cosmos in a Pod wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our YouTube channel for more amazing space and astronomy content. Until next time, keep looking up and keep exploring.